taking daily action. I've got a saying, in Flip Lifestyle, I teach this in a lot of my mindset trainings: consistent, prolific, relentless. Consistent, prolific, relentless. Like, that's the mindset we have. That's a core value in our company here at Flip Lifestyle. It's why we achieve success. It's why we serve people at such a high level. It's why we've been able to grow this business to the size that it is right now. And we always are talking about daily action. When I say consistent, prolific, and really, we are consistent every day. We do what we say we're going to do, right? Like, we release podcasts on schedule. We share things on social media. We send out emails. We're consistent, right? But we're also prolific. We don't want to just be someone who wakes up and ticks the boxes consistently. We want to go the next level. We want to be prolific. We want to be extra. If everybody else is doing 1 action a day, we want to do 5, right? And then relentless is like when, things get hard, or haters show up in our life. Other people's opinions start screaming in and chirping and try to get us down because they're jealous of our success, or their life is miserable and they don't want to, they don't want to do anything and take any responsibility for themselves. You got haters out there, or we're not making progress, or maybe we want the scoreboard to light up. Like, we want to score 60 points this game, right? But we didn't score 60. We only got 40, right? Like, so how do we do that? Easy. We're relentless. Like, we never give up. We just keep running the play that we're going to run, right? So we keep taking that daily action consistently, prolifically, relentlessly. And I'm a student of philosophy and faith, and I just really love to read things that were written over like 1,000 years ago. I just really love that. That's what I study. Like, I study the Stoics, I study the Greek philosophers, I study the Bible, I study ancient texts, because if it lasted this long, there's got to be some value encoded on those pages, people. Y'all need to read some philosophy out in your life, right? And one of my favorite books of all time is Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, which is an amazing book because, and if you're ever going to read this book, get the Gregory Hayes translation. Maybe we can put a link for it in the show notes. But this book is amazing because it's not just a emperor of Rome. It's not just a philosopher. It's not just a wise, powerful, successful human being, which Marcus Aurelius was all of those things, considered one of the greatest rulers in the history of the world. But he actually wrote a journal every night, and he would write down things in his journal, and he was writing to himself, and he never meant for this to be published, right? So when he writes things down, like one of his most famous lines translated is, "The obstacle is the way," right? It's like when things, obstacles, problems, challenges, guys, that's the way. That's actually where everyone else quits, is where you should keep going. They stop at the boulder in the road. They don't think how to climb over it, go around it, push the boulder out of the way. The obstacle is the way to success, is the way to victory, right? Like, when Marcus Aurelius says these things, it's probably because that day he experienced an obstacle that stopped him. He experienced a challenge, and he was encouraging himself, looking in the mirror, saying, "Yo, Marcus Aurelius, be consistent, be prolific, be relentless. The obstacle is the way. Don't you dare give up. You get out of bed the next day. You try again." And so all this wisdom that we get from him is him talking to himself on those days. There's a lot of times where he talks about how people from his past would show back up and try to call him things and say things about him from the past. And he would say, "No, that doesn't matter. Like, you can't listen to these trolls and these haters. They're just jealous. They're just out there trying to talk about who you were, not who you've become." Right? And he's saying it to himself because he probably dealt with that in that moment, right? When people are like, "Oh, Marcus Aurelius, you say this, that, and the other, you're a hypocrite," right? And he's like, "No, I'm not a hypocrite." When he says, "Hey, you gotta, after you defeat someone in battle, you got to treat them with respect." He probably defeated somebody in battle and treated them with disrespect, and he was yelling at himself, right? So this wisdom in this book is incredible. And I read this book all the time. It's one of those books I go to again and again and again in my life. About every 6 months, I'll buy a new copy of it because I write in it so much when I take notes every pass through this book that I have to have a new one because I got to start over writing all the notes. I've got like 4 copies of this book just written from cover to cover with my thoughts as I'm reading Marcus Aurelius's thoughts about his day. And that's what we're talking about here, is daily action, right? So I was reading this the other day, and I ran across this one meditation. So this comes from, it's one book. It's a really thin book. It's not a bit, but he calls each of these is called books. I guess they were scrolls. So like they would find scrolls or his parchment or whatever it was. So there's like, this one's from book 9 and it's meditation number 29 in the Gregory Hayes translation. And I was reading this and I kind of came up with this 5-step process for having an amazing day as an online entrepreneur, of how to be at peace with your day, how to do the things necessary to make you successful. See, many of you want success, but you're not doing the things necessary to be successful, right? You want that. So we got to do those things every single day. So in this particular meditation, Marcus Aurelius says, get a move on. Don't worry whether anyone will give you credit. And don't expect Plato's Republic. Okay, so Plato's Republic, Plato wrote what a perfect society would look like, which he was really writing about what a perfect person would look like, kind of. And so that's the perfect outcome is what he's talking about here. So don't expect perfection. Don't expect Plato's Republic. Be satisfied with even the slightest progress toward your goal and treat the outcome as unimportant. Man, I read this and I wrote it down and I shared it with my mastermind and I sent it to my friends. And I was like, I've got to share this with people out there, because daily action and a good mindset on how you're taking action every day, and a mindset of playing the long game and not getting in a hurry and wanting to get wealthy forever, wanting to leave an inheritance to your children's children, but not getting rich quick. Right? That mindset of daily movement and progress towards your goal. Man, I just meditated on this. I thought about this all day. And I wrote down these 5 steps so I could share them with you guys here on the podcast so that you can go out and do these things. And I looked at these things and I'm like, these are the things that I do. This is the mindset I take into the day. The most successful people I know, this is how they end up evolving and how they become. And I think if you guys take this in to the end of this year and maybe into the new year and maybe into tomorrow, you'll have a better chance at taking progress toward your goal of being an online entrepreneur, making your income from home, having total control of your time, building an inheritance for your children's children, and being able to move forward. Okay, so let's look back at this. Okay, so I'm gonna read it one more time. Get a move on. Don't worry whether anyone will give you credit, and don't expect Plato's Republic, the perfect outcome. Be satisfied with even the slightest progress towards your goal, and treat the outcome as unimportant. That comes from Marcus Aurelius, book 9, meditation 29. So, all right. So the first thing I learned from this passage is take action daily. Take action daily. You can't be, as David Goggins would call it, a part-time savage. You just can't do that. Like, you don't have to work out 9 hours a day. You could work 30 minutes a day on your online business, but you've got to commit yourself to taking action every day. It's not going to work unless you try to take some kind, even if it's just writing down a sales funnel, thinking about your next email subject line on the bus on the way to work or whatever. Like, that's it. Like, you got to do something every day. You got to stay in the groove. You know, one thing I'm trying to do right now is get healthier. Me and Jocelyn decided a while back we're going to lose some weight. Jocelyn's down like almost 20 pounds. I'm down almost 30 pounds. And we've been doing it basically with diet and a nutritionist and exercise and things like that. And I want to take exercise to the next level now. And I was looking around and I was like, one thing I just like to do yoga. I love to do yoga. I love to get a good stretch. I love the way it makes my arms and my shoulders feel when I do like planks and down dogs and all that good stuff. And so I made a decision. I'm like, I'm going to do yoga every day in this month. Okay. So in this month, I said, I'm going to do yoga every day. And I'm just going to do yoga every day. Now, I've made a commitment to do it every day. I might miss a day or two. I don't know what's going to happen. Might get sick. Might get something else, but I'm going to commit myself to try to do it every day. And if I live in the majority and I get to 80, 90, 95, 100% of that, I know I'm going to make progress. It doesn't matter how much weight I want to lose, what I want my bicep to look. If I do yoga every day for 30 days, I'm going to look better. Something, maybe my tricep at least, right? So that's just it. I've got to take daily action. So what's a simple daily action that you can take 5 minutes a day to work on your dream? Like, if you'll do that, you'll probably be closer to your goal 30 days from now, 60 days from now, 90 days from now, than you would be doing it once a week or part-time. And you might have to let some stuff go, but you got to commit to taking daily action. So get a move on. That's what Marcus Aurelius says. Take daily action. Next thing he says is, don't worry whether anyone will give you credit. So the second thing I learned from this passage is ignore other people's opinions, past, present, and future of yourself. You know who you are today. So if someone says, well, you used to be this person 15, 20 years ago. You used to be this person a year ago. You used to be this person last week. Then you read a book or heard a podcast from this guy named Shane at Flip Lifestyle. And now you're all of a sudden you want to start an online business. Don't you remember who you were last week? Ignore their opinions. It doesn't matter. You got to be confident and know who you are and say, no, this is what I want today in the present and forward. This is who I am becoming and who I'm going to become. I don't care. When you launch your product and people are like, you shouldn't charge for that, ignore other people's opinions. Don't worry if anybody will give you credit. If you want your spouse or you want your parents or you want your friends to be proud of you, why? Why? They don't care. They don't care what you're doing or what if you're proud of them. No, you need to be proud of yourself. You need to look into yourself. You need to ignore other people's opinions on what's right, wrong, or indifferent for you in your life. And if you want to heal from past trauma, then heal. If you want to be a different person, forget who you were in the past. Be a different person. If you want to start an entrepreneurial journey, then start your entrepreneurial journey. Just because they're too scared to do it doesn't mean you should listen to them. Even if they're important in your life, sometimes you got to say, hey, this is what I want. This is what I want to do, and I'm not going to let my past limitations or doubts defeat me. I'm not going to do that. I heard a great podcast today. I can't remember who was saying it. I hate to not give credit for this, but I'm just going to steal it and say it's mine. But I heard someone on a podcast the other day said most people will only push themselves to the level of their past accomplishment, and then they stop and try to keep everybody else from going forward. Or many people will only push themselves to the limit of their talent, but then things will get hard where their talent won't help them and they won't push past that to achieve greatness. You've got to say, this is what I want. I'm going to push myself past my past, past my talent into my future. And I'm not going to worry about what anyone else has to say to me. Okay. All right. Number 3, he says, don't expect Plato's Republic, the perfect outcome. Instead, be satisfied with even the slightest progress on your goal. So the third thing I learned from this passage was set reasonable expectations. You're not going to have a 100,000 person podcast listenership in 3 months. You're just not going to do it. You're not going to make $1 million your first 6 months in business. This isn't a home run. If you're out there trying to be an entrepreneur that's going to help you quit your job in 27 days because you really hate your job. That's not what it's going to take. It's going to take time. Right? Like you've got to set reasonable expectations. You may want to quit your job in a year. Great. That's reasonable. Now, what is your 12-month goal, 9-month goal, 6-month goal, 3-month goal, 1-month goal, tomorrow goal that you got to do? Take daily action toward that. Okay. To get there. So set reasonable expectations. Most people fail just because I'm going to be the next Tony Robbins. No, you're not. No, you're not. Right? I'm going to do what Shane and Jocelyn do in their business that's been here for over a decade. No, you're not. You will eventually, but it took us a decade to get where we are. Why do you think you're going to be able to do what we do until you do what we did? Right? Whatever your goal is, you set reasonable expectations for yourself. That's going to look different for everybody based on resources, time, ability, but set reasonable expectations. Don't expect perfection. Don't expect Plato's Republic. And finally, the fourth thing I learned was focus on the progress. Be satisfied with even the slightest progress toward your goal. I remember, man, when I used to work on our online business, I would be so satisfied because I was working full time and raising kids and a husband, and I was running a small group at church and all these things. And I would be satisfied if I could just send one email, man. Just one email. Man, I got that email written. I had to sit here and I had to do it in the car. After dropping the kids off at daycare or school or Mimi's house or whatever, and I just sat in the car and wrote it. I got it done. Now I got to go back the rest of my day. Be satisfied. If you take daily action, give yourself credit. Every night I write down in my journal, I get up and do a plan in the morning, and then at night, I don't look back at my plan. I think back on my day, and I write down all the things I'm proud of myself for doing, no matter how small. You got up and made a cup of coffee today, Shane. A lot of people were too beat down by life, and they didn't get up. You got up and took your kids to school. That's a good dad. You got to come back and sit down and have breakfast with your wife. That's a good husband. You reached out to your friend who lost their dad. That's a good friend. And any little thing, man. You cooked food at 12 o'clock. That was good. You didn't eat the extra piece of pizza at dinner. That was good. I just give myself credit. Any progress toward my goal, right? And you got to do that. You got to give yourself credit. I highly recommend writing stuff down too. It's easy. So number 1, what I learned from this passage is take action daily if you want to be a great entrepreneur or successful in anything you're doing in life. Number 2, ignore people's opinions. They don't know who you are today or who you're going to be tomorrow. Why do you care? They're not thinking about you 24 hours a day. No one, whoever you think is thinking about you right now, they have a life too. And they're thinking about themselves. Why do you care when they all of a sudden spout 1 second of their day, their opinion about you? Who cares? They're not thinking about you all day. So ignore their opinion. Set reasonable expectations. Number 3. Number 4, focus on progress. And number 5, be outcome independent. This is probably the greatest thing I've ever learned as being an entrepreneur is no matter how much you think you're going to work hard and have talent and make connections and make things happen, all these things we do, the outcome is still probably out of your control. I don't know I'm recording this podcast right now. I don't know if anybody's going to listen to it. I think based on what we're doing, we have tens of thousands of downloads a month. So I'm assuming someone's going to listen to it, but all I can really do is take action today and record this podcast. All I can do is ignore other people's opinions of what I'm talking about. All I can do is set a reasonable expectation. If I record this, people will listen and it will help some people. All I can do is focus on the progress. In a couple minutes, I'm going to be done recording this segment of the show. And then I can be outcome independent. I'm going to look and see what happens and try to learn from it so better outcomes can happen. But really, all you can do is treat the outcome as unimportant. That's the secret. That's how you actually get the outcomes you want, is you don't worry about the outcome. You worry about the action. You worry about the expectations you set for yourself, and you worry about the progress. And if you do those things, then you're going to be able to go out and have at least the chance, the opportunity to make whatever your dream is a reality. So awesome word from Marcus Aurelius Meditations. Wanted to kick that off today, and also to get us in that new year mindset, get into that end of year mindset, that it's time to set some things straight, right? We got big goals, we got resolutions and all that stuff, but let's focus on what actually makes things happen, okay? And one thing that I wrote down at the bottom of this in my journal entry as I was doing this, the last thing I want to share with you is, happiness, people think happiness is going to be found in an outcome. It's going to be found in success, or, if only my life looked like theirs did on Instagram, right? If only my life sounded as good as them on Twitter, right? That's what we think is going to happen, okay? But really, happiness, guys, it's found in the effort. It's found in daily action. So make a commitment today that you're going to make daily action happen going forward on your business dream, on your marriage dream, on your parenting dream, on your life dream. Make sure you're going to get rid of those other opinions, the past. The past doesn't have any bearing on your future, by the way. It's gone. It's irrelevant. It's now imaginary. It's as imaginary as the worst case scenarios you create for yourself when you're about to go out in a new goal. So focus on present, focus on today, focus on the daily action.